Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to discuss the lesson Law Spring, that is the second lesson of our grade 12 English CBSE syllabus. This is one of the very important lesson wherein the author Anis Jung have discussed the destitute life of poverty. Let us jump into this chapter and see what are the important topics. So the first part, this story is divided into part 1 and part 2. First part is about Shahib Alam. He is a refugee in the periphery of Delhi, and it starts with the author narrator with a didactic question. What is a didactic? Didactic, didactic question whose answer is dichotomous, ambiguous. What do you do? This I ask Sahib when I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dump of my neighborhood. Sahib left his home long ago, set amidst the green field of Dhaka. So where did he come from? He come from Dhaka, which is in Bangladesh, and he has come to India as a refugee. We do not exactly know the time frame since it was written during 70s and 80s, might be the partition time. Let's not delve into the history and the partition history. And why do you do this? And the answer comes, I have nothing else to do. So who is this I is this Shahib. He says that I have nothing else to do. So why did he come from Dhaka? This is important. Please mark, why did he come from Dhaka? He comes from Dhaka because there are many storms that have swept away their fields and homes. His mother tells him that. So because Shahib, the character Shahib, comes from Dhaka to periphery of Delhi, because his homes were swept away by storms. I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. And then the author says, go to school. I say glibly. Glibly means without any seriousness, without much thought. Hesitatingly, he says, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must have been. His advice, whose advice? Anis Jung's advice was quite hollow, telling Shahib, this character, that he must go to school because there are no school nearby. That's a slum area, refugee area. Okay, moving on. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. So he is very casual about his approach. Casual, another word for casual is nonchalant. 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 You can use these words in your answer. So he is a very nonchalant, although he is a very little kid. By the end of the story, he will realize that his burden of being in poverty. If I start a school, will you come? I ask half jokingly. Again, the author is very glib in this case, without much thought. He is telling jokingly. Yes, he says, smiling broadly. So Shahib is telling, yes, surely, why not? If you start your school, I would come. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? So this Shahib, he is innocent. He comes after a few days and tells that is your. So he too is eager to go to school, but the author, without his thought, just told that I will build a school and you come. All right. And it takes longer to build a school. I say, embarrassed. He was quite ashamed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. So we can see the author Anis Jung is giving a portrayal of his bleak world. Bleak means hopeless, dim world, dimly lighted. Here in this case, we can say hopeless world where everyone gives false promises, hollow promises, but nothing get materialized because of the resources, lack of resources they have. If he knows, okay, after a month of knowing him, I ask him. So author knows him for a few month. After a month of knowing him, and the author asks, I ask his name. The name, what is the name? The original name, the full name rather, is Shahib-e-Alam. What is his full name? Is Shahib-e-Alam. And this name is ironical. This is a verbal irony. Why is it a verbal irony? The meaning of the name is exactly opposite to the meaning. It does not mean what it the literal meaning is. Sahib Alam, he announces, a lord of the universe. Sahib Alam means lord of the universe. But and in fact he's a rag picker. He is in destitute poverty. He's far away from being a lord. He would have hard time believing it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the street with his friend, an army of barefoot. Here it's a use of metaphor. So wherever the literary devices are used, these are the point very important for your board exam. So I am writing Cbse. These are the point very important for your board exam, and you should mark this point and study. So he roams around the street with his barefoot boys of army, appearing like the morning birds and disappear at noon. Over the time I have come to recognize each of them. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked one. So there were few of the boys, and I asked, means the Anis, the author, asked one of them that why they are not wearing a chappal. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf. So they answer, to hide their poverty. They give excuse that mother did not. In fact, we are quite aware that they were in such a condition they were not able to afford the sleepers, right, the chappals. So here, even if she did, uh, he will throw them off at another. So there are a group of boys, as you can see in this picture. So they were barefooted, and one of them said that mother did not bring the chapel down from the shelf. Another said, even if your mother had done that, you would have thrown that away. Because he tells that it is not lack of money but a tradition. This is important, this can be quoted. Why does he say that it's a lack of tradition? They say so to hide and give excuse to their perpetual state of poverty. To their perpetual state of poverty. Please mark this line, this is very important. Cbse. Perpetual state of poverty. This is also alliteration here, literary device, right? Moving on, I remember a story. Now, why is this story relevant? This is an anecdote. Anecdote is a small story inserted in order to give context. To give context to the plot. So he's telling that there is a man in Udupi who was a priest, and his little boy wanted a slipper. But later, 30 years later, I visit this town and the temple, which is now drowned in the air of desolation. Metaphor. Okay. So the town was hopeless, but back there I saw young boy dressed in grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes. So this story is inserted of a man from Udupi, and 30 years later his boy gets a slipper. So they had someone had a hope in a very poor and destitute town, but their hope materialized, but it took a lot of time. Similarly, he is trying to juxtapose the condition of Shaheb and his friend, who are in a very destitute condition, in a poverty, and they have a hope to upgrade themselves. And let us see whether they will be able to actually materialize their hope and dream. Moving into the story, my acquaintance with the barefoot rag picker leads me to Simapuri. Simapuri, a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it. This is a beautiful metaphor, and surely, let's see, this might just pop up and in Cbse. So he's telling that it's in Delhi, but it's their homes are in the periphery of Delhi. It's in the vicinity of Delhi, nearby Delhi, but it is miles away from it. Why? Because of the development of Delhi, and the periphery is not at all what is the trapped condition of the development. There is no development, it is like miles away, it is hundreds of miles away. Metaphorically, those who live here are squatters, came from the Bangladesh back in 1971. As now here we are coming to the partition story. He's telling that the 71 wars and all, and that is how they have come as a refugee. Shahib's family is among them. Simapuri was then a wilderness. It is still, but it's no longer empty. It's structures of mud with roof. So he's telling Simapuri then a wilderness. Wilderness in term of nature. It is still, but it is no longer empty. He's telling that it is still a wilderness. Now it is not in terms of nature, but wilderness in terms of human chaos and chaotic. This is very important. Try to understand this word. It was earlier also it was wilderness where wild animal roamed around. Now also it is in wilderness, but here now wild animal have been replaced. It is not now empty by human being who act wild. Okay, in structure of mud with roof, tin and tarpaulin divide of swage, drainage and running water lives 1000 rack pickers. They have lived there for more than 30 years without an identity, without permits, but the ration card that get their names on voter list enable them to buy grain. Food is more important for survival than identity. Why does author say so? Because they live without their identity, and for them food is more important, not the identity, not as a person what they achieve, not as a human being what they wanted to. Because the most necessary fundamental need of a person at that time is to bring food to their table, to have their stomach filled, in order to survive. If at the end of the day we can feed our family and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields of that gives us no grain. So he says so they were happy because they get food here. Says a group of women in tattered sari, tattered, turned, and wretched. When I asked them why they have left their beautiful land of green, field and river, wherever they find food, they pitch their tent and become transient home. Transient home, the temporariness. Again, a metaphor. So they make transient home, temporariness. Children grow up in them becoming partner in survival, and survival in Simapuri means rack picking. Through the years, it has acquired the proportion of fine art. So again here, hyperbole. Garbage to them is gold, metaphor. Garbage is like gold. Garbage is very worthy because that brings them their livelihood. That brings them their livelihood. That brings them their livelihood, their food, their ration or whatever they can by picking the garbage. Someone's discard is gold to them. Did you understand the irony, the juxtaposition? What is garbage? Something that you throw away, and that thrown away thing are picked up by rat picker, and that gives them their needs for survival. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note. Shahib says, his eyes lighten up. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is a hope of finding more. It seems that for children, garbage has a different from what it means to their parents. For children, it is wrapped in wonder. For elder, it's a means for survival. So children, it is just wrapped in wonder. They are curious. They are not at that state when they have to find something. They have to do it for survival. It is a game for them. But for the elder, it is the need, it is the survival, the garbage. One winter morning, I see Shahib standing by the fenced gate of neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, content to watch standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around. He admits the gatekeeper, let's use the swing. So he is intently watching a tennis game which is beyond his reach. He cannot play the game of riches. Shahib too is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says in the manner of an explanation. The fact they are discarded shoes by some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them does not bother him. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. Very important. So you can just get a question from here. Why is he content? Why is he content, happy to even get a shoes with a hole? That's because he has been used to living without any shoes. A barefoot person can you know it's like a dream come true, even if they get a whole shoe, isn't it, torn or mm, torn apart shoe. This morning Shahib is on his way to milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. So something has changed here. So this is the climax of the story. So he saw another day when Shahib is way to milk booth. His hand is steel canister. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing to the distance. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meal. Does he like the job? I ask. His face, I see, lost the carefree look. Now Shahib is no longer very casual and carefree. The steel canister seems heavier than plastic bag he would carry so lightly over his shoulder. The bag was his. The canister belonged to the man who owns the tea stall. So here, because of their poverty and destitute condition, he has been employed. He has been employed in the tea stall, where his free will has been ripped apart, and he now worked for someone. He does not have that carefree look. What is Sahib looking for in the garbage dump? Where is he? Where is he come from? These are the question. Once you solve, and few more question I will be adding in the description box, so that it will be much better idea for you. So this is the first part. For part 2 I'll be making another video. Alright student, all the best for your exam.